Welcome in, baseball fans. We are back for, is this going to be our last episode of Weekend Rotation on the actual weekend? I don't know. It is our Saturday here, the College World Series. I got Jake, Alex, Noah, and AJ. Fellas, how we doing this morning? Another beautiful day. Everybody ready for some baseball today?
Absolutely, Mark.
Absolutely.
Let's go. It's going to be a great day here. Uh, let's get right into some weird stuff. How about LSU getting a couple transfers? Alex, I'll let you speak on this first. Christian Little from Vanderbilt and Tommy Tanks from NC State. The transfer portal is open and all roads lead to LSU. What are we talking about here, Alex?
Yeah, man, it was a good day yesterday. You know, Jay Johnson is the portal assassin out there doing it by himself. No staff, just out there pulling recruits left and right, man. I mean, they got the number one recruiting class coming in. We'll see how many of those guys actually make it to campus. But even, I mean, they're not going to get all of them, obviously, but they're going to get enough of them that's going to be a ton of talent coming in. And then you got, you know, the best pitcher in the portal and the best hitter in the portal coming to LSU. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where Tommy Tanks fits in, on the field. If he plays first or third or where they put him, but I mean he's gonna be in that lineup.
Yeah, AJ, I know that you're still hoping for some transfers from some arms to get to South Carolina. There are some arms out there still. This transfer portal is crazy. What do you think about this transferring of all these players coming all over the place?
I mean, I think for me, there's three different classifications of people who are transferring. There's coaches leaving, and that creates unsure circumstances, and players want to go play for someone who they actually know is going to be the coach. There are players leaving for bigger schools who have, grinded at a smaller school, gotten better, improved, and, want to show their stuff on the bigger stage. And then there's people leaving for kind of muddier reasons, shall we say. And I think the transfer portal is great for the first two groups.
Yeah.
I think for the third, you get people who might be leaving for the wrong reasons or leaving for short-term reasons. And that is why we see thousands more players in the transfer portal than will be picked up out of the transfer portal. People leave without homes.
Yeah.
And so I like it, but it needs to be refined. I like that the players have the mobility. I think they absolutely should. But I think it's probably being overused right now by players.
I agree. I think that they have to revamp it. I think that they have to do something with, the coaches leaving, that kind of stuff. I get it. If your coach leaves, that's tough. You don't want to be sitting on there when you've been working hard for a guy and then you don't have any idea who's coming in. Speaking of which, Jake, when we're looking at that, there's some arms at Notre Dame that are young. Do you think that they stay around with no coach there now? Like, what are they doing? They just sit back and wait and find out who their coach is before they make that decision?
If I'm being honest, with Notre Dame's situation, I'm getting the heck out of there. Link Jarrett's probably the best coach that Notre Dame was ever going to hire. I feel like anybody that they have is going to be kind of a downgrade on Link Jarrett. But, I mean, if it's more of a big Southern school that has a coach leave, kind of like LSU last year or A&M, I think that's a completely different scenario. And I think you should stay kind of in the South where baseball is a lot bigger at the coaches. But, yeah, with some of those northern schools, Michigan's another one, I think you need to get out of there and kind of realize that was the peak. But I, for one, am all for this. I think that the product, the reason of what it is because of the athletes and them being able to transfer freely is something that I really like. I know A&M was kind of the transfer portal kings of the off seasons. So that might be why. But I really like it. I like the athletes, kind of taking themselves where they think that they have the best position to succeed at the next level. Kind of the rumor coming out with Tommy Tanks is that they were trying to DH him. And I think that's perfect that he goes to a place like LSU where he can play in the field and get to that next level. And I'm all for it if you think it's the best thing for you.
Yeah, it's tough because you want what's best for these kids. And, the coaches get to quit and move up and move anywhere they want all over the country without a notice of anybody. So I think it is time for the players. I think that they do need revamping, though. There needs to be some way to regulate this and get it under somewhat of control because, thousands of players in the portal. What are you going to do when all these recruits come in and there's no home for some of these guys? It's going to be kind of rough. But, I mean, it is their decision. It's a free market. It's the biggest part of it. Noah, I know we've had a few conversations about this. What do you see happening with the transfer portal? Do we have any new players out there?
Yeah, just kind of the Wild West out there when it's operating at its peak, especially when you see it in football and basketball. It's really, really bad where it gets to the point of you talk about grinding it at a smaller school. Then you have guys who grind it out at a Power 5 school who just want to transfer to another Power 5 school just for fun, and then they end up getting a whole lot of money in NIL. I don't think that's as big of a deal in baseball yet. Hopefully it doesn't become that way, but there's not a lot of regulation when it comes to that in the other two sports. Luckily, almost people don't really pay attention to baseball, so maybe it won't impact us that way.
Yeah, it feels like baseball is kind of on the lower end of this problem right now, but it doesn't mean that it won't become a problem. Doesn't mean that there won't be players leaving all over the place. There's, if a kid feels like he's not going to get playing time now, he tries to go transfer anywhere else, and that could be Power 5 to Power 5. So I will say that I feel like the talent this year in the 64 teams that were in the tournament was very much leveled out, be it the COVID stuff where they had extra large rosters this year. Guys were able to stay longer in school. Smaller drafts kind of kept all these players in, so maybe that kind of leveled it out. Maybe this transfer portal thing also levels out college baseball, so we don't have any super teams like Tennessee being formed again. But LSU feels like Tennessee next year. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling here. Looking at coaches.
Well, one other interesting thing that they've seen in football, and I don't know if it'll trickle down, to baseball, but in football, this last recruiting class, there were the fewest number of high school signees ever. I mean, in the last 20 years or whatever, because of transfer portal. So you wonder how many fewer guys, at the high school level are going to get opportunities because coaches are going to the transfer portal.
Yeah, and with the draft being small too, they're not taking as many high school players out of the draft if they don't have to, because they want these guys that are pro ready, and these Power 5 guys are ready to play right now. And coaches want that too. So when they transfer in a guy who's ready to start right away and doesn't need a couple seasons of work underneath of him, it's really limiting the freshman opportunities here for a lot of these baseball players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. I think that it's going to make a lot of the smaller schools a lot better, because I think a lot of these really talented freshmen are going to be going to places where they can play right away, and then they're going to transfer out eventually. But it's going to be a really interesting to see how this turns out. Coaching. So, like we all predicted, Link Jarrett leaving Notre Dame, goes to Florida State. AJ, why don't you start us off with this one?
I think we all saw it coming as soon as the Florida State job came open. It just seemed like it was almost inevitable. I mean, Link Jarrett, again, at Notre Dame, he had his group of seniors he was going through. He had gone with them to the College World Series. That was kind of his squad. Florida State job popped open. It felt like a natural fit, and basically only a matter of time. I think the more surprising thing was Tommy Tanks didn't end up at Florida State with Link Jarrett. I think that was more surprising than Link Jarrett actually being hired by Florida State.
I was surprised by that. And Christian Little, a pitcher, going there when they don't even have a pitching coach yet, and he just decides. No, I know you and I were sitting in on the live conference when Link Jarrett won Coach of the Year, the Mike Martin Award. At that point, it kind of felt like he was going to Florida State. Am I wrong? Did it feel like that at that press conference, or was it just me who felt that?
Yeah, it was almost symbolic more than anything. I think that, nobody was trying to hint, but it was just everything was so Florida State centric in that press conference that it was almost kind of weird. And like you pointed out, no staff members joined him. I wasn't really expecting him to win the award. I thought that they would just say it was Tony Vitello, and they would just say, yeah, we'll give it to him. He couldn't be here today for whatever reason. But then Link Jarrett walked through the door, and we knew who was going to win the award. It was like, oh, where's everybody else to celebrate with them?
I looked around. I told Noah, I'm like, none of his staff is here. There's literally nobody here with him. It's just him accepting this award by himself in the morning. It was really kind of awkward. I half expected him to rip his shirt off WWE style and have a Florida State painting underneath or something.
Or just some hats lined up on the table.
Yeah. And then he put the Notre Dame one on, and then he threw it into the crowd and put the Florida State one on.
Yeah, it was a really strange put together press conference that morning. But he said so many good things about, Mike Martin. He played for Mike Martin. And it was just, it felt the whole time like he was going to Florida State. So that one doesn't surprise me at all. The big surprising things that I'm looking at, is the other coaching availabilities. You know, Alex, we look at USC, used to be a baseball powerhouse. It still doesn't have a job. Nobody's the head coach there. And now Notre Dame, Paul Minari, I know we talked about this. He kind of said, no thanks, fellas.
Yeah, he said that he's not quite ready to get back in. He had a lot of health problems, which was one of the reasons why he retired at LSU. He had some pretty serious neck issues. He had several surgeries, and he was asked about that yesterday about some of the local Baton Rouge, and he said, "No, I'm not ready to get back into coaching yet." But I mean, he said it in a way that kind of leaves the door open that maybe he will come back in a couple of years, another year or two. We'll see. The USC job is interesting. Rumor, I guess, is that Troy Tulowitzki, the hitting coach at Texas, is kind of the favorite there. We'll see if that happens. That'd be a pretty nice get for USC. I mean, they used to be a power, but they're not really a destination school anymore. You really got to rebuild that program from the ground up and get. Biggest thing is just going to be getting USC to actually invest in the baseball program. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's really been strange to me to look at this and think USC was the dead last in the Pac-12. There's far too much talent down there to be dead last in the Pac-12. You can't be losing to teams like Washington State and Utah and finishing dead last in the Pac. Jake, when you look at this, what's the more enticing job, Notre Dame or USC? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
I would definitely say USC. Notre Dame has a ton of problems. They're a little bit too north to kind of get some of these big recruits. Their stadium is atrocious. They cancel a ton of games due to weather. USC almost kind of reminds me of like A&M football, where they have the ability to kind of go in, tear down the program. If they can really invest in it and get a solid coach, I feel like all the pieces are going to be in place for him to succeed. And there really isn't kind of a recent baseball history. So it's not like he's expected, like Arkansas going to the Final Four and it almost feeling like a disappointment. That's not going to be the case at USC. I feel like even getting that team into the tournament is just going to do wonders for the fans there. And I think that's going to be a very, very not easy job because you do have to go in and rebuild it, but it's going to be a lot more back end behind the scenes stuff, getting people to invest and NIL deal stuff like that. But the rumor coming out is that it's going to be Troy Tulowitzki, the hitting coach out of Texas. So if they get them, that'll be a home run hire.
Yeah, and you look at this, and AJ, I know you're a South Carolina guy. So which USC school's in better shape right now? You're on the hot seat. He just decided he's here for one more year at least, and they didn't want further. So
South Carolina's in much better shape for sure because we actually have some sort of fan investment and history of recruiting classes. We're actively getting in transfers. We got 3 transfer guys so far from Clemson since they fired Monty Lee. Yeah. So, that program, it might be below its heyday. It might not be where we want it as a fan base, but it's in a much better position than Southern Cal. And I think Troy Tulowitzki for them will probably be the best hire because when you hire in California, you need a name. And Troy Tulowitzki is a name that even casual baseball fans out west know. So I think that he will help get recruits for them. If they don't get a name, if they don't get they're not going to get a top flight coach. They're not going to get someone like a Jay Johnson to go rebuild that program because those coaches don't want to go do that. He'll be someone's step up job or first head coaching job. And, all the pieces are there, but it will take effort and time to rebuild that program. It won't be a Auburn turnaround or in Alabama this year where they were, missing the tournament last year. It'll be like a Missouri, like where you need to grow that program with recruits and you'll see good signs first, but it'll be growing pains.
Yeah. As an athletic department, it's got to be frustrating to be Southern California when you look across and you see UCLA being so successful just across the street. And then you're like, teams like Oregon and Oregon State are on the rise and they're getting better at baseball every single year. And you're falling that hard. It's got to be tough. Speaking of Tulowitzki leaving, though, Noah, when we look at that, Pierce now no longer has his pitching coach. He may lose his hitting coach. Are we talking about a full rebuild down there in Texas after going to the College World Series?
Mark, apparently you weren't familiar that Texas has been in more College World Series than they haven't been. So I don't think Texas is capable of a total rebuild. Troy Tulowitzki is just another guy in line. I don't think, obviously, he's doing a good job because he's been there multiple years now, but you never really see him like showing a lot of personality in the dugout. He's, maybe that's just his character. I think he's a pretty replaceable guy for somebody like Texas.
Yeah.
If they were to lose him, he was always kind of a weird fit anyway. Tulo didn't go to Texas, so I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, I think Texas is fine. But when you guys have been talking about this USC job, I have a deal to the USC athletic director if he's listening. I will coach the team for $60,000 a year, and you pay for my living. So just throw me in some cheap apartment in Los Angeles.
No such thing.
$60,000 a year, whatever, just the cheapest they can find. I'll live in a box.
Live in Lincoln Riley's guest house. Just live out. Cool.
That is fine with me. I will live in Southern California and coach the baseball team that has. Do they have the most national championships all the time? Still? Or is
Yes.
that
Yes,
Texas?
they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so you know what? I'll take that job for $60,000 a year. You won't find anybody cheaper than that. USC, give me a call. It's 402-680-1359. Thank you.
It is so strange that you look at a team that is so storied and such a great program, and now they're just terrible. And they're going through the same thing with football. They made a splash hire in football. I don't think they can make a splash hire in baseball unless it's Troy Tulowitzki, because there's not a lot of names left in college baseball right now that you're going to steal from another job. You're not taking in the SEC coaches. Tony V's not busting through the door and coming to USC. None of these things are happening. I don't see them making a splash hire, but yeah, with the talent down in Southern California, there's zero reason for them to be this down, this bad. All right. Do we want to actually get into some World Series talk? I know we didn't get to talk much about the last games here. Arkansas losing to Ole Miss. DeLucia was amazing. He has not walked a single person in 16 2/3 in the World Series. He's 2-0. AJ, tell us why Ole Miss has been able to make this run.
Their pitching staff has been absolutely incredible in the postseason.
Yeah.
I think they have 3 shutouts since the Super Regionals. Like, it is insane what that staff's been able to do. It's a completely different staff than we saw from most of the regular season, especially conference play.
Yeah.
And when you go out and your offense is like, we only need to score 3 to win, they can play loose. Guys like Tim Elko can have great at bats. And there are still a couple of people in that lineup who aren't performing at their highest level. Like Jacob Gonzalez isn't having a even good College World Series, but the pitching staff is
stop.
But the pitching staff has been so dominant, that they don't need to be perfect on offense like they had to be for most of the year.
Fact. Noah, 2 months ago, you kept saying Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Ole Miss, but you've got to watch it live. You've got to be there for every game. How does this make you feel, them being in the national championship now? They got to win 2 out of 3 against a very good Oklahoma team. Skip's got these guys rolling. What do you give them their chances? How this game 1 looks, going Doherty looks like on the mound?
Yep. Well, talking about my feelings on it, it was just one of those things where I did call Mike Bianco a couple months ago, and I said, hey, if you guys, make the national championship series, I'm going to streak and join the celebration as you guys clinch that championship bid. And he put in a favor, and he said, hey, grounds crew, don't arrest him. So it was pretty cool for me to be able to run on the field naked after they won that game. So I'm very excited for my Ole Miss Rebels. I've been a lifer until they lose again, or lose twice now. So, I'm ecstatic. Everybody knows I'm a big Ole Miss guy. I actually have a Mississippi State flag coming in just so I can support both teams equally. So, and I think they have a good shot at winning it all. I worry about this kind of being like their big moment. Like it seems like they celebrated a lot more than Oklahoma did, and kind of just let it like, wow, we really did it.
Yeah. And
Oklahoma's very well rested. I think they might have changed the whole way that the bracket is drawn up this year. I'm not 100% sure, but it feels like Oklahoma has hardly played at all, whereas Ole Miss has played like 8 games, even though they have not played 8 games. But, yeah, I think Ole Miss might be a little bit tired. I was kind of questioning their decision to throw out Doherty, or however you say his name. And, I would like to see Hunter Elliott go game 1, but I'm ecstatic for my Rebels, so we'll see. I'm never going to count us out.
Jake, I know you were there for the Oklahoma win, and you've been there for a lot of these games here this week. Been exciting atmosphere there in Omaha. It feels like Oklahoma's there for business. What do you see in this Oklahoma team coming into the World Series?
A very, very professional, almost big league-like approach. You watch them take in and out. They're not really talking that much. They're not really joking around, having fun. They seem to be a team on a mission. And the way that Oklahoma plays is it's almost playing right into Ole Miss's hand with how many errors they make. I mean, they really took care of A&M with A&M's kryptonite of just pounding the zone. And I think that formula is going to play key here again with Ole Miss coming forward. But again, hats off to the Ole Miss Rebels. I think that's probably one of the greatest pitching performances I've ever seen live. And credit Bianco. I mean, he went with his defensive lineup. He knew he didn't really need that many runs going into it. And that 2-0 win really played right into their hand. But, man, I'm excited to see OU some more. I know I've only got to see them once because they've been winning so much. But I think Oklahoma with their pitching setup is going to be a very tall task to win. But the flip side of that is I'm sure Ole Miss wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, Alex, when we look at this here pitching, we were just talking about, Jake just spoke that. You think they go Jake Bennett here? And when you look at Coach Skip, who do you compare him to? I feel like he's a little bit of like a mix of Augie Guerrero and Garrido and Paul Maneri. Like he feels like this just calm, smooth guy, like how you say Florida.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of chill up there. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and he's the calming presence in that dugout. And I think that's what helps them stay so focused and stay on their A game. And it kind of feels like Ole Miss is maybe pitching backwards a little bit, and throwing Doherty today and Elliott tomorrow. We'll see if that works out for them. But I mean, winning game 1 is so crucial in this series. It feels odd that they wouldn't go with their best guy. But we'll see what happens. I mean, this set up absolutely perfectly for Oklahoma. I mean, the only way this could have been better for Oklahoma is if Ole Miss had to throw out a ton of arms, to beat Arkansas. Luckily for them,
just one.
DeLucia goes to complete game shutout, so it wasn't necessary. But I think Jake's right when he says like this just lined up perfectly for Oklahoma to win this championship series. So we'll see if Ole Miss can pull it out.
All right. Speaking of this, AJ, I'm going to ask everybody the same question. Percentage chance that DeLucia starts game 3 and percentage chance that he goes over 5 innings.
There's not going to be a game 3. He's going to close it out in game 2.
Oh,
ooh,
Ole Miss in 2, so he's going 0%. Noah, what do you got? Do you think he throws game 3?
I was going to go side with AJ and say Ole Miss in 2 or Oklahoma in 2. I have absolutely no read on this series. But now because AJ's on it and I saw a little twinkle in Alex's eye, I'm going to jump on a 3-game series here. So, yeah, I'm going to say he pitches in game 3. But just know that if I had gone first, I would have said Ole Miss in 2.
Jake, what do you got?
I got 100% he's pitching in game 3. I don't see a scenario where he doesn't pitch. But as far as being effective, I would say it's about 50-50 he goes after 5. I mean, he was getting Arkansas out of there quick. And if he has that low pitch count, I don't see any reason why he doesn't go past 5. But, Oklahoma's a lot better hitting team, in my opinion, I think.
It is 3 days rest. Alex, I know you don't love this decision. Where do you stand if he gets to that game 3?
I think this absolutely goes to game 3. And I don't actually think I think he'll pitch. Dylan DeLucia will absolutely pitch game 3 if there is a game 3. But I don't think he starts. I think he closes game 3. I think they'll bring him in the 8th inning and ask him to get 6 outs if they're up.
My fear is that they would start Derek Diamond.
I think Bianco, if they get to game 3, I don't see a way that they don't look at DeLucia and go, if you can throw, we're throwing you. And we're going to throw you until you don't want to throw anymore. The guy's been too like I said, 0 walks in 16 2/3 is just nuts at this level and in this ballpark. If you're throwing strikes, it's hard to hit the ball out of this ballpark. You're going to take your shots with that wind blowing in most days. I got Oklahoma in 2, but I kind of hope it goes game 3 because I kind of want to see DeLucia throw. I just think I think Bennett's too much. I think that there's not a big chance here for Ole Miss to win today. I think this is a tall task for this, Ole Miss lineup to come up and beat him today. Noah, when we look at all these teams here, Who do you think is going to be the best player of the tournament here in these
You
two
know,
teams?
when you said Oklahoma's going to win, I was literally just about to ask you if Oklahoma wins, who's their most outstanding player? Because it feels like we've seen them play, but like 3 times literally, and nobody has really stood out. It's just kind of been a team game, which is I don't think Oklahoma's too upset about that. But you look at Ole Miss, it's like if they win and Dylan DeLucia pitches, he's definitely going to win that award.
Yeah.
Whereas there were a lot of teams in this tournament who, even if they made the finals, kind of like Oklahoma, nobody's really standing out. So I think DeLucia is definitely in the driver's seat to win it. But if Oklahoma wins, I don't know. It might go to Cade Horton or
Not
Bennett.
the knife. Wow, I thought you would be all over the knife.
The knife just hasn't really, like, he's been doing the little things, and the outstanding player is usually somebody who's just catching the eye. The knife just does everything perfectly, so you can't really expect him to stand out. The knife is the best player remaining in this field, though.
He does have just a lot of singles. I think he's hitting almost 500, but they're like all singles. Like he hasn't driven the ball. It's a tough ballpark to drive the ball. If you're looking at a guy for Oklahoma who has driven the ball, I'm fine with going with Treadway. That guy's been driving the ball. He's been kind of exciting. However, he's done everything. I'd be fine leaning in that direction there. Alex, who do you think is the best player here? Who's going to win player of the tournament?
Well, I mean, I agree with Noah that Peyton Graham is absolutely the best player remaining in the tournament. And I think you're either, if Oklahoma wins, you're either looking at Peyton Graham, or I think Jimmy Crooks is another one that you could call out. I mean, he's had 2 3-run bombs in this World Series. I mean, that's another guy. But yeah, if Ole Miss wins, it's absolutely Dylan DeLucia. I mean, you could make an argument for Kevin Graham as well, but I don't see how it wouldn't be DeLucia.
Yeah, Jake.
I'm going to go Tim Elko because I think Tim Elko has a huge series. I think that's going to be – I mean, he's kind of been quiet, low-key, under the radar, which is really weird to kind of say for somebody of Tim Elko's talent. But I think Tim Elko has a very big series, almost a Big Papi-esque type series. I think he comes out and wins the MVP.
Is he Big Pop because that stash is just so dirty and he's just ready to go, man? That's just outstanding.
It's even better in person, I will say.
that video you got of him in the tunnel was outstanding, Jake. I will say that was some of the best coverage of the whole week.
That video has over 47,000 views now on Twitter.
Did we put that up on the weekend rotations thing too?
Yes, we did.
Let's go. AJ, who's the player of the tournament?
I mean, it's going to be tough. I find it, going Ole Miss in 2. I think DeLucia has it locked down unless Tim Elko has a generational type 2-game stretch, or, I mean, he's really the only person I think who could unseat DeLucia right now, just because of what DeLucia's done so far this postseason. I think the best player left in the tournament, though, from a pure talent standpoint, is probably Jacob Gonzalez, but he hasn't been playing like it at the plate. And, that's where he makes his contribution. He's a power threat shortstop who's decent at short, but not he's not a Jalen Battles over there. He's not Ryan Ritter. He has a lot of growing to do over there, but at the plate he has been, I don't want to say abysmal, but he has not been holding his own like he has all season. So
this has been a struggle for Jacob Gonzalez. I am not a Jacob Gonzalez hater. I just don't believe that he is a shortstop at the next level. I don't think that he has the hands for it. I think that he's got struggles there. But, his 5 errors speak for themselves here in the World Series so far. His hitting, though, has been sad. I thought he'd come out and tear the cover off the ball, especially facing a bunch of these right-handed pitchers. And he really hasn't been able to do as much as everybody was hoping that he would do in this tournament. Noah, I'm sure, is his number one fan, rooting for him to do a little better. Me, personally, I'm taking Peyton Graham. I think that he steps up here. I think he probably hits about 500. Maybe he gets his first extra base hit here. Maybe he hits a home run. I'd be really excited to see what he does in this series. I think that he's not a shortstop at the next level either. I believe he's a corner outfielder at the next level. But the 2 shortstops here are probably what the story is. So looking forward here. What else we got, fellas?
Well, we got, I guess, a question or a comment, depending on how you want to look at it. I think this one's for you there, Noah.
Well, when a team like Arkansas plays a team like Ole Miss, obviously Ole Miss is I have an Ole Miss tattoo on my lower back, and Arkansas is a fan base that I have grown very fond of, and I enjoyed my trip to Fayetteville this year. So I couldn't just tweet out one or the other. I had to tweet out both sayings to really rile up the fan base. And I absolutely knew what I was doing with this tweet. I knew that it would upset Arkansas fans more than it upset Ole Miss fans. A lot of Ole Miss fans liked it. So you know what? I think that the better team won because of it. So I'm gonna say that Mike Bianco probably put this on the bulletin board, and Dave Van Horn did as well. It just worked better for Ole Miss. So there's only one thing left to say, and that's Hottie Boomer Toddy Sooner.
Any more questions from the fans today?
Let's see. We got this one here. Not really a question, but more a comment that I wanted to highlight here. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake's dad.
He doesn't understand how social media works, so he's been trying to, tweet at us all year, and I guess he figured it out through my girlfriend. Yeah,
he even follows me now, and I'm not even his favorite. Come on.
Well, Jake's dad, we appreciate you breaking the bank to send Jake up here. Obviously, you paid for it and everything that he bought along the way. Really thankful for Jake's speedboat coming too. We had a lot of fun on the Missouri River, and it was a great time. The helicopter is really, really cool.
Yeah, no, it makes getting to the games a lot easier. We don't have to sit in traffic.
Yeah.
Did they just drop you off in center field?
We did like Will Ferrell, and Ferrell takes the field.
They dropped him off just in the foul territory right next to first base. Nobody could catch him.
Ouch. Ouch, Arkansas fans.
Just adding insult to injury. Like
just unnecessary injuries here. All right, so let's pick what we got here. Alex, who you got in this championship game?
I think this goes 3 games, and I think I've got Ole Miss in 3. I think if it goes to game 3, I think Ole Miss has the advantage. If it only goes 2, Oklahoma has the advantage. But if it goes, I think it'll go 3, and I think Dylan DeLucia gets the save in game 3 and wins the most outstanding player.
Jake?
Rebs in 3. I think they lose the first game, and then they have a State-esque time bounce back in game 2 and 3. It is kind of feeling almost like State last year, and I think I'm still going to ride with my Tim Elko pick.
Elko. AJ?
I got Ole Miss in 2. I think they chased Bennett pretty early in this one. Actually, I think he's been a hot arm as of late, but he's sitting there with a mid to upper 3 ERA coming into the tournament, so it's not like he's been shut down all year. I think the experienced bats in those Ole Miss lineup get to him, and I think they jump on him and then ride the momentum in game 2.
Think Jacob Gonzalez comes alive today finally?
I think he comes up with something big, whether it's a big play in the field or whether it's a huge at bat. I think he does something today that puts his stamp on the College World Series so far.
Well, it better be in that bat because he can't do it in the field. Noah, what do you got?
Well, I keep wrestling back and forth with this one, and I'm an Ole Miss lifer, which is why I have Oklahoma winning in 3 games. I just cannot picture Ole Miss winning at all. That's just way too crazy. And Oklahoma's look like the more polished team, and Peyton Graham is going to lead his team to a College World Series championship. I can see the tweets already. Oklahoma becomes the first team to win in both softball and baseball. Fire it up.
That was going to be my exact take here. I'm taking Oklahoma in 2. I think this is the first time we ever have that. We've been close 2 times before where both teams made the national championship. Both the men's and women's College World Series are going to Oklahoma this year. I can tell you that I did not have that coming in, but then after the first day meeting Skip, I was very excited to watch them play baseball and how calm he was. It was incredible. I think that Graham is the leader here. I think he does something spectacular here the next 2 games. I think Bennett is enough. I agree with you, AJ. I think that he might get roughed up a little bit here. But I think Cade Horton is the real deal. You look at that dude, he is a true power arm coming forward. I hope that he stays. I think he has to stay 1 more year at Oklahoma, maybe.
Yep.
So the slider's going to get better for Cade Horton. It's going to have a little bit more time to work with it.
He told us in a press conference that he learned that 3 weeks ago. He learned how to throw that slider 3 weeks ago, and he's been rolling with it in the World Series. So, yeah, something's working. I believe I got Oklahoma in 2. And Peyton Graham is the player of the tournament.
Well, Noah, if Oklahoma wins it, according to Mitch, that Florida was the second best team because Florida beat Oklahoma.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.
Well, you know who else beat Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah, I was going to
LSU.
say, are you going to say that? Is LSU going to claim this one?
Well,
There's no math.
UCF beat Ole Miss, so if Ole Miss
yeah.
wins, UCF is the national champion again.
And they split with State, too. So Ole Miss's best season in history, they only split with State. So that's the other thing that we're playing for.
Didn't everybody beat Ole Miss?
South Carolina
Not
beat Ole
LSU.
Miss. So
Not LSU, yeah.
Not LSU. Ouch. Well, fellas, are we doing the live watch party today with people? Or do we decide if we're doing that or not at the game time? I guess we could put out an announcement if we decide we are going to do that here off the air.
Yeah, why don't y'all let us know? Would y'all want us to do like a companion show alongside the game? If we get enough fan support, maybe we'll fire it up.
If we can get Ben McDonald, since I know he's not calling any of the games, I would rather watch Ben McDonald, on Swamp People than announcers.
I'm not going to lie.
Kendall Rogers said that Ben McDonald would call the game for some boiled chicken feet.
We met him. Noah and I met him on the first day. He was there when we were checking into our media credentials, and we're getting in the front door. And I'm like, I did not realize how tall he is. He is a tall.
He is. He's very tall.
Very nice. Very well spoken. He's just like, welcome in, fellas. Have a great day. I'm like, I'm going to. Yep. I'm
and then the flat top is straight. It's like it's planned with how straight it is.
He had the polo. He looked like he was ready for golf. He looked like he could do any of the dad things. He was ready to go. It was incredible.
Yeah, he is every bit of 6'9".
He was putting the level on there, and we had to make sure that it was level, and the bubble was perfect on that flat.
And he was seeing if it was plumb too on the sides.
It was just
for all those people that know what plumb is.
Those things you eat when you have to shit, right?
Those are prunes, Mark. Prunes.
Oh, those are plums that are turned into raisins. Got it.
You're going on 80 years old now. You better learn what prunes are.
The gut's not what it used to be. All 36 years.
It's the Casey's sandwich instead of getting the Casey's pizza.
Oh man, I was a nightmare. That flight home, I was not good. Not good.
What kind of clown goes to Casey's and doesn't get pizza? That's just like that's so. That's obscene, is what it is.
It's a Northwest problem. I didn't even know that it was a pizza joint until you guys all made fun of me. And I was like, and then I tried to go get pizza the next day, and it was closed at 11 o'clock, and we got out of the stadium at midnight, so I didn't even get to get pizza that next day.
Next time.
Yeah, I had to order from I Uber Eated from some kitchen grits, and so I got a cinnamon roll and some country fried steak.
Is there not even a Waffle House in Omaha?
Nope. No, there's no Waffle House here.
That's a travesty.
It was either there or go to the Spearmint Rhino for dinner, and I didn't want to do either one of them.
Spearmint Rhino?
It was just down the street from my hotel.
I do want to give a shout out to Noah for giving me 2 tremendous restaurant recommendations. He gave me Gorat's, the steakhouse, probably the best steak I've ever had.
God
and
dang
then he
it.
gave. It was really good. I got the T-bone, and it was huge. It was wall-to-wall, medium rare. And then yesterday in Kansas City, he got me the Joe's barbecue, which was, again, amazing. So Noah might, in the offseason, be converting to be a food channel. So be on the lookout for that.
I was so disappointed. I wanted to go to Gratz, but it was open only from 4 to 9 every day. And we were doing baseball games every day. I was there. Man.
And I do want to give a shout out to Texas A&M for letting me down so I could go to Gratz. That there wasn't 2 what-if games. So.
Yeah, we did have a lot of good food though this week. Not gonna lie. Inside the stadium, I don't know if I sent the picture out to you guys, but I had these things called brisket nacho tots. Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. It was nachos made with brisket put on top of tots. It was pretty delightful. That was probably the best thing I had all week inside the stadium. They did feed us well though in the press box all week, so no complaints there.
The cheesesteak was really, really good too. Surprisingly good, because you don't think a cheesesteak's going to be very good at a baseball game, but it was one of the better cheesesteaks it had.
I think Noah's going to agree with me that the best thing that they served us was those brownies on day like 1.
Oh yeah, you can't beat those brownies, and they've had some other desserts since, and they've all just had something wrong with them. Like
Yeah.
one little tweak. The brownies were like a 10 out of 10. Hopefully they come back.
I think that between you, me, and Mitch, we might have had an entire tray of those brownies on accident. So
The cookies were underrated too. I was gonna say y'all wouldn't shut up about the brownies. Like every day, like they would roll off the dessert, and I would be like, "These aren't the brownies."
It's so true. The food was like, "Oh, what are we having today?"
Yeah, that's what for like when A&M is playing. Like I'm more excited about what food they're serving us in the game.
You got plenty of time. You can get like a third and fourth plate
Yeah.
because the game takes so long.
Oh man, yeah, sitting there watching a 5-hour baseball game, listening to the old men complain about it.
We got
Gold
some more
pretzels.
dads coming in on the comments here.
The dad show.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
AJ's dad. How do we rate ESPN's coverage of the College World Series?
you know what? I didn't really get to watch much of it because we were in the booth so much. So we didn't get to hear any of the coverage. It was really strange. So when you're in the press box, all you hear is the microphones from the umpires. So you don't hear any of the field coverage. You don't hear any of the PA announcer. You don't hear any of that stuff. And then
Oh, you do hear some hot mics though down the lines.
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the microphone's only from the umpires and the ones on the corners. And then you do hear the official scorer comes on. He's like E5, and that's it. And he just stops talking.
100 pitches, 78 for strikes. That's 100 pitches, 78 for strikes.
Yeah.
And he's electric.
But I thought that they did all right. I mean, they did what ESPN does. They pretend like it's a week-long thing instead of being the whole year thing. So they come in and try to cover it strong for a week.
Yeah,
until the NBA
I've
draft.
watched basically every game of this College World Series on ESPN, and it's very obvious who covers the sport year round and who doesn't. Eduardo Perez and Carl Ravitch, they do a really good job with MLB, and they're good announcers, but they just don't know college baseball, right? So they're mispronouncing names. They're just they've got their little their little cheat sheet in front of them of the things that they say, and they mostly ran out of that stuff in like game 1. But it's very obvious that like Ben McDonald, Chris Burke, KP, they're the ones that are in the sport every week, and it's hard to beat a color duo of Chris Burke and Ben McDonald. It's pretty elite.
It's frustrating that he's not doing the championship series. I don't know why he's not. I don't know what the discussion was there. I don't know if it would have been Kyle Peterson, Chris Burke, and Ben McDonald in the booth. I think all of us college baseball fans would have been excited over that. Like that's what we want.
Yeah, I mean, I if they weren't in the booth during postseason, for a lot of the announcers, I watch the game on mute, because you have people who it's just they got an assignment. Here are the stats. Here's the names. Some people were having strokes trying to pronounce Chatinier. Like it was hard to watch at some points. And then, if it's your first time seeing a guy, you're just getting a bunch of baseball isms being thrown out of, he just hits it backside. Well, it's like
They had Jacob Gonzalez as sure fielder.
yeah, like it's people who obviously haven't watched these guys play. So it's frustrating to watch as people who have watched and kept up with these teams to have, the worldwide leader in sports not put people who care about the game in the booth.
Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious when they, put out graphics that are just completely wrong and have the wrong teams playing the next day.
And have Stanford beating Arkansas in the first game and have that over for over 24 hours before they correct that. Like
we're sitting in the press box, and I'm sitting there, and I look over and Noah's down the way, and I'm like looking up. I'm like, and I look to the guy on my left, and he works for ESPN. And I go, "Hey, that graphic's wrong." I was like, Arkansas definitely didn't lose game 1. He was like, what do you mean? I'm like, your graphic shows that Stanford beat Arkansas. And he's like, oh. And he gets on his phone and starts texting somebody. And the next time the graphic was up, it was fixed. I was like, you're welcome, America. Apparently, I'm the only one paying attention in all of Oklahoma and all of the stadium here.
I do want to give a shout out to Carl Ravitch's wife. She was traveling with him, and apparently he called the game on Saturday, then flew to Houston for Sunday Night Baseball, and then flew back. So I'm really not sure how many times you can fly from Omaha to Houston, but I do want to give a shout out to him for working, and then his wife following him everywhere.
Well, he was probably more focused on the Sunday night game than the College World Series.
Yeah, and the sad part is I like Carl Ravitch. I think he does such a great job with MLB. But again, when you're an MLB guy, it's a much different thing than when you go to cover these college kids and you haven't seen them play all year.
Right.
It's got to be really tough. I mean, because he wants to do his best job too, and it's tough. But I still believe, like I said, give me Kyle Peterson, Ben McDonald, and Burke in the booth, and I would be just ecstatic.
And I mean, there are guys like, I guarantee you, they went in and they were keyed on, Sonny DeShera, Ivan Melendez, several guys.
Yeah, they lost.
And then when they're out, it's like, who on Oklahoma do we know? Like,
yeah,
that's probably a very real. Their cheat sheet for Oklahoma, I guarantee you, is 1 page, and for Texas, they had a book. Like,
and not just out, but didn't play well. Like, didn't even give them any of the highlights. Didn't give them any of the bonus structure. Nothing. It was just like, oh, didn't play well, and they're out.
My favorite part of the entire production is how every time there's a no-hitter going, they like to talk about it.
Yes.
Which is obviously an ESPN specialty. And then as soon as the no-hitter gets broken up for Arkansas, they start showing 2018 CWS highlights. Like, I want to know what Arkansas did to ESPN, because I really think they hate Arkansas, which, sometimes it's hard to blame them. But but you know what? Shout out to ESPN for giving them the raw dog end of the deal.
I will say that nobody in the press box on either one of those days when there was some good pitching performances said anything. Like, it was silent in there. We were just like, and then we'd be like, oh, gets through another inning, and like not say anything about it.
Yeah, they would say the pitch count, and we'd be like,
here's the pitch count, not hits, nothing else. And it was just silent, everybody doing their job, and then when it got broken, like, oh.
Yeah.
But ESPN is trying to jinx it the whole time. Let's get it on TV. He's perfect.
I'm surprised they don't start saying there's a no-hitter going after the first out.
Perfect game, intact.
Yeah, he's taking the mound with a no-hitter in place. Like,
start it.
Oh, man. Good stuff.
All right, Mark, go take a nap before the game.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Got in. I played some video games yesterday, first time in a few weeks, so I was ready to go. I was excited to be home.
I've gotten 2 full nights of sleep for the first time in a while. That was weird.
I will say I loved being in Omaha, but man, there was not a lot of sleep to be had between games. It was like you're here till after midnight, because we would stay and do all the press conferences, and then you get home after midnight and you're like, oh, there's a press conference at 8 a.m. Got to go watch Ivan Melendez win an award. Let's go.
Hey, speaking of Ivan Melendez, he won Golden Spikes yesterday. I mean, as a, surprise to no one.
I know.
But, congratulations to him on an incredible season.
Yeah, he did. He had an incredible season. You feel for the kid too there, because Texas did not play like they.
I do want to say one thing though about that. Texas fans, can y'all please appreciate what you had? I've been seeing a ton of comments about it's like, oh, he disappeared when we needed him most. That's all I remember him, is striking out with the bases loaded. Like, give me a break. He probably had the greatest season in college baseball, probably the last 10 years, and that's how you're gonna remember him.
He hit a single in that ballpark that was 109 miles an hour. He just hit it at 0 degrees, and so it just went through the infield instead of going out of the ballpark.
If they have an average Big 12 first baseman, they don't host. He not only carried him for most of the year, he was huge in the super regionals. He was huge so many times throughout the year. And it was, when people have years like Cooper Jerpy did and Kevin Parada did, to have someone else be the runaway winner for Golden Spike showed you how dominant they were. And that's, again, if you don't appreciate that on your team, then you don't deserve players like that in your program. So
Jake was kind of going through their resume in Texas's schedule, and it was like, if they don't have that kind of generational player, obviously that boosted up a little bit when you want to see Ivan Melendez play at home and have a good path to Omaha. They were kind of not very good.
Yeah. I mean, if you look past the College Classic, I mean, they were really the whole year. I mean, the OU one's kind of playing up, but at the time, OU was a 2 seed. That was really their best series. And after that, I mean, are we really going to applaud them for beating West Virginia and Kansas? Like,
no.
Yeah, I mean, Ivan Melendez had the best season we've seen in the BB Core era. I mean, he shattered Texas's program record for home runs. I mean, when you think about, Texas is a storied program. He's one of the, if not the best program in the history of college baseball. And to have a guy shatter any records in a program like that is a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, I got to hop off. I'll see y'all later.
All right, Jake.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good week.